Muy buenas a todos y bienvenidos a una nueva entrevista en el canal. Bienvenidos a todos. Hoy os traigo una invitada muy especial en esta parte de las entrevistas que hago en inglés. Ella es Vanessa Williams, es editora de trailers, ha trabajado con The Silver Case, ha trabajado en Daisy Dungeons, Super Crush K.O. Ha hecho bastantes trailers. Si veis su portfolio, que lo tendréis en la descripción, vais a flipar. So, thank you very much, Vanessa, for being here with me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so well, I want to start talking about I want to talk about trailers, about how you work with trailers, but I want to put a bit of context in your life. So,
Yeah.
how did you start it, making not only trailers but everything you've been making about video editing?
Yeah, it was kind of an accident. It was not what I intended to do at all. I started off by studying how to be a writer,
Right?
and I did literature. I actually got a master's degree in literature. And then I just started to hate the work I was doing. I started really, really disliking studying the things I was studying. And so I went to film school just to try something different. And in film school, I fell in love with editing. I was the only student who liked it, which was a big plus. So I was the only one who was going for those jobs, which made it a lot easier for me. It's a very, very tedious and boring thing to learn and to do consistently. So I had a real advantage by being patient. And yeah, I landed a job immediately with a place in the UK called Ealing Studios, which is where I was studying at the time. And I worked on a very, very bad movie um, called Saint Trinians, which has like Russell Brand in it. It's really, really terrible. And then started working at Technicolor, where I got to work with television programming, and then ended up coming back to the United States, where I started doing film and TV and commercial work. And again, by pure accident, I landed into the world of trailers, video game trailers, which was completely unintentional and probably the best piece of luck that could have happened to me.
How were your first works outside the video game trailers? I mean, how was it working with something more? Well, you said it wasn't a really great movie, but I'm curious about what you did there.
I mostly did the dishes. I was the trainee assistant editor. So on bigger productions, you have on feature films, you have the editor and then you have an assistant editor, and they do most of the editing together. And then you might have other people who do things like they look for sound effects or they find temporary music or they export things and handle the data, but they don't do a lot of the creative stuff. So my job was to go and get lunches and to do the dishes and to find sound effects when they asked for them. And I did that for about 3 weeks. So that was my first job. But I feel like I've done a little bit of everything. When I worked at Technicolor, I had to sit there and watch TV programs and look for mistakes. The shows would be broadcast in the United States and then get put on a tape to the UK, and I had to watch it and make sure there wasn't a single frame of problem, because for every single frame of problem they had, they could get charged £1,000 for as the error. So I had to just like really look and watch and fix it. So yeah.
That's a lot of money. Oh wow, I didn't expect that. You,
Yeah. So, yeah. So, you kind of work your way up the ladder, and then eventually you get to do the more creative side of things. And so, eventually, I was able to like write for television, which means editing slash writing for television. And then, yeah, it was. I was lucky enough to work on two feature films in the last couple years, which include Paper Tigers and the movie Prospect.
we will talk about it later because I'm really interested about. Well, in Prospect, you work with Pedro Pascal, so it is
Yeah.
something really cool. But
Yeah.
but then you started working like that, and then just one day start. It comes to you a job offer about making a video game trailer or something like that. How was it?
Yeah. It was such a crazy experience. I got hired by a company called Imagos Films, and they had a contract with Adult Swim Games to do all of their trailers for 1 year. And I was their kind of in-house editor, and in charge of the whole like post-production process with them. So it was my first time doing video game stuff. In fact, I hadn't played. I loved video games as a kid, and I'd obsessively played through college. And then after that, I really had to stop because I couldn't afford it anymore, and I didn't have the time. So it had been a long time since I'd been in the world of video games, and so getting these Adult Swim game trailers, it was like such a fun, exciting opportunity. So I was able to do things for Duck Game and Westerado, and some of their smaller titles that they gave us the opportunity to cut. I didn't think it was going to become like my career, but I just really fell in love with it because you get to make these fun little genre chunks. You get to make a horror trailer one day, and you get to make an action trailer another day, and you get to make a goofy, insane, experimental trailer another day. And I just really loved getting to work with such a diverse bit of content. And after I left Imagos, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And then I just started getting calls from all these indie game developers who said, we love what you did. We love Duck Game. We love this and that. Can we hire you? And I was like, oh my God. Okay, yes, absolutely. So I lucked out. I really lucked out.
That's really cool. I mean, one of the games that I played the most is that game because it was a game that obsessed on me and my classmates when I was in the university. It was really fun. We used to hang out at someone's house and simply play the game as it was a fun 4-player multiplayer. It was really cool. So you started getting goals. You've worked in a lot of video games since. When did you start, more or less? Which year?
Yeah. So I started working on video game trailers with Imagos in 2014. And after I left in 2017, I worked as a freelancer, and I picked up a lot more trailers and kept doing more and more and more. So even my website, I have a hard time keeping up because I probably put out maybe 2 to 3 new ones a month. So there's just
a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, and sometimes some are seen more than others. There was one I did with a good friend of mine, Joshua Collier, who is an incredible video game trailer editor. And he said, I have this trailer I have to do for PAX. I don't have a lot of time. Can you help me on it? And so I helped him put out a couple of trailers for this game. And I didn't think it was anything. And then I got to PAX, and the game was called Rapture Rejects. And it's, yeah, with cyanide and happiness. And I really didn't think much of it. And you go to PAX and you're going up the escalators, and the banners all said Rapture Rejects. And there were these big signs. And I was like, oh my God, it's like a really important game. And I definitely worked hard on it, but I was like, I had no idea it was going to be this big. So sometimes the trailers, I don't even realize how popular the games are. Like with Cultist Simulator, I had no idea that was such a huge game, and I was really fortunate to do like 4 or 5 trailers with them.
You've worked in a lot of games. I mean, for example, I'm gonna switch to the other screen. Okay, 1 minute. You've worked in Daisy Dungeons, in Rapture Rejects, Cultist Simulator, Best Friend Forever, Super Crush K.O. I love that game. Rocket Legacy, Wonder Edition. I love that game so much. I've played so much hours to this little game. It's one of my favorites. It was my first roguelike, and I love it. Shovel Knight, Pocket Dungeon, Crucible, Still a Soul, a lot of games. Actually, you've worked in a lot of games, and this is only trailers. I mean, I'm not looking behind all this because I have, for example, when you worked in Soma, in the Silver Kids documentary, as I've said before, Death Bank, another one that I love, Organ Trail. I mean, Organ Trail, it's really mythical. Westerado, as you said, it's a lot of video games that you've worked in 7 years. I mean, it's 8 years now. It's a lot of experience. So, you actually, well, I'm curious. Have you played all the games?
That's such a good question. Sadly, no. I often don't get to play the games. I have now started doing a lot of capture for some of the trailers that I'm doing as of this year, so I'm finally getting to play the games. But previously, they would capture and they would send me their stuff, their content, their playthrough, and it was like watching it was like being a kid again, watching my siblings play games. It's like I have to just sit there and in the back and like watch somebody else do all the fun things and try to find all the best moments from the game. But I don't have enough time. I wish I did. But I love these games so much. Like you mentioned, Super Crush KO and Duck Game and Rogue Legacy. I not only love the games, but meeting the developers, they are such amazing human beings. They are such good people. And so I feel really fortunate to help their art be seen by other people.
I've I've loved to meet all these developers. I mean, I've loved to talk to people about video games, as you can as you are here with me right now. It's really cool. But I have one question. I mean, you said that you are now recording your own gameplay, so you're playing the games. How is it different from when they send you the footage? Is it difficult? Is it harder?
Yeah, it's a whole nother job. In fact, I end up having to spend twice as long. So each trailer probably takes me about 40 hours to cut, just to cut. So if I'm playing the game as well, that's an additional, maybe 2 days of time. So 16 hours to play the game. And then to organize the footage is another 1 to 2 days. So that's almost an additional week of time. So, and it's a very different thing because when you're playing the game, you're really looking at making sure the visuals look good. So it's like going back to film school. It's like going into camera work again. You're making sure everything looks right and the screen looks perfect and everything's placed exactly where it needs to be. And then you have to make sure your machine is capturing the frame rate correctly and that everything looks really good. And you have to get into the developer tools. So you have to do a little bit of programming here and there. Yeah, because the games are never done. Like when you're doing the trailers, you're doing it ahead of time. So often you have to have these cheat codes where you're like, oh, I have to be invincible right now because otherwise I'm going to die immediately. I'm not good at their games because I only get such a short period of time to play them. So I have to be like, okay, give me infinite life, give me infinite health, make sure that I can like hop around the whole game to all the different levels because otherwise there's no way I'm going to be able to do it. And then when I go into editing, it's a very, very different skill. So I have to switch into a creative and a technical mode where I'm thinking about storytelling. And that's just a very, very different way of approaching it. So it feels like it's two completely different jobs. And it really is.
And how did you approach the making of a trailer? I mean, you probably have to speak with the developers, and then you have to
Yes.
plan how you want to script, how you want to do the trailer. I'm really interested in that part because I also I will admit, well, I will say I knew your work because I was watching a Mark video. I love the channel and I forgot the name again. Mark's no Game Maker's Toolkit. My God.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Your name appeared on one of them about talking about trailers, and it was really intriguing because I've never thought about it. I've talked before with some marketing staff, someone who works in selling the video game actually, but it was true, as Mark said, that trailers are something that will evoke us, that will make us want to play. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I want to know more. And as you made Super Crush K.O. and Shovel Knight and Roguelike, I was like, oh, I Roguelike Legacy. I was like, okay, I want to talk with her. I was really lucky that you answered my calls so quickly.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
so that's a question. How do you start planning the trailer, and how do you develop it?
Yeah, so you were right. You were so correct. The first thing I do is I talk to the developer and I see if they have a vision or an idea of what they want. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. So the amount that I put in is very much dependent on how much they want to put themselves in. Some developers are really burnt out and they are like, hey, I'm paying you, just make this awesome. I have no idea how to tell people that my game's amazing. Just
Do
do
something.
something. Yeah, just please, for the love of God. And I have other people who have a script and they're like, this is exactly what I want. So, but most of the time, honestly, most of the time, they really aren't sure how to approach it, which is great for me. So what I do is I talk to them about their game. I talk to them about the tone, the audience, who they want to play the game, what kind of feeling you get when you play the game. And then I have them send me things like the music, and that's very, very helpful. So I know what it feels like. And then from there, if I get a chance, I'll try to play the game, but otherwise, I probably have to just watch the gameplay footage. I go through and I start to mark out and get an idea of the story. And then from there, sometimes I pitch back to the developers 3 different directions we can go, and then they choose one. So I usually do like 3 tonally different options. So this one really focuses on the action. This one really focuses on the emotional core of the game, and this one really focuses on the special abilities and the features. So I'll pitch these different kinds of directions we can go, and then they pick one, and then I get to start to assemble it. And I look for all the things in the footage that they gave me that symbolize the best parts of their game, and start to construct it to meet our goal of what it's going to be like in the end.
So you start with approaching the 3 different kinds of trailers. I want to focus on how do you plan the trailers when you are not given any script, when you are, well, I don't think if you are completely free to do whatever you want, but almost, as they give you almost complete freedom. So how do you start? I mean, for example, it must be really different to make Super Crush K.O. from, I don't know, Rogue Legacy. Probably will be pretty different. Of looking at your Cultist Simulator is completely, it's a completely different genre for everything else. So how do you start planning a trailer? It depends, depending on how the game is.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very similar to other forms of filmmaking. You get the footage and you watch it and you make notes. And that's the most important part. Going through and watching, and I make what are called markers in Premiere, and I write these notes about what it is that's interesting. I write about the little deaths that you have happen, and the special one-ups, or the uh, prizes that you get, the treasures that you find, or the emotional moments. Any of the cinematics are very, very important too. So I watch all of this stuff and I try to find all those really key moments. And then using that and having the music, I start to visualize where I want to go. There's 2 different kinds of editing. There's technical editors and there's emotional editors. And I'm an emotional editor. So I use my feelings a lot when I'm making a trailer. And I try to really like hone into what I feel when I watch this stuff. And I try to find a way to recreate that for a potential game player, somebody who might want to purchase it. I think, okay, well, this bit's really scary, and it's really freaking me out, and it's really making my heart pound. So I'm going to take this little bit of the eerie moments and stack them up, and I'm going to use the music to swell and to rise, and to bring all those creepy moments up to this peak moment where it's the biggest, worst thing they can see, and then have stillness, and then go to the title card. So it's like that. There's a lot of building. You start with the basics about the game. You introduce the story, the world, the hero, and then what the game is, like what the gameplay is going to be about. So what you're going to be doing in the game as a player, because I don't like lying to people. I want them to know very much, this is a puzzle game. You're going to get a puzzle game. Like this, this is a platformer. And I want to make that very clear so that people who want to purchase the game, who love platformers, know what they're see that that's what they're going to get. So I show off all the gameplay mechanics, and then I end with a really big, interesting, important moment for that game, whatever that game is. So even though all of these trailers are very different and all the games are very different, they often have a very similar arc in the way that their story is told in a trailer. So I just get to be the lucky one who gets to dig through and find out what that emotional core of their game is.
That's actually really cool. Sorry, when I'm stuck in English, I just start laughing. Okay.
You're totally fine. You're totally fine.
Okay, thanks. Sorry. Well, I want to talk. I want to ask you, for example. I mean, when you're making a trailer is like a. I think you said this before, but it's like making a small movie. So it is really different to making what you were making before, or for example, what you made on Prospect or the Paper Tigers.
Right. It is different because a trailer takes like 1 week to make. I mean, it takes 40 hours, right? So that's like maybe three weeks of time going back and forth with the developer. So it takes like a month. You start and you end within a month. And for something like the Paper Tigers or Prospect, those take 6 months to a year. Um,
Oof, that's a lot.
yeah. Yeah. So every time I'm on a feature film, that's a really big commitment. And it's not just me, it's me and a team of people who are working together. So it's just such a different process. And also with a feature film, I get a lot less creative say because there's a screenwriter and there's a director and there's actors and there's all these other artists who are putting this stuff together. So it's like each day you get to tell maybe 1 or 2 minutes of the film. You get to carve out another minute and make that look really good. And in the end, you're like, oh God, does it all work? Does it all flow together? And then you have to change a bunch of stuff so that it flows. Versus a trailer, I feel like it's so fast. You can make it's such a mini version of filmmaking. It's the same process, to a large extent. It's the same, trying to find the story and telling it, but it's so much shorter and so much more truncated and so much more like the pressure's on you alone to make it look cool. So it's definitely a very different process.
I suppose you normally work. You put the example of Drop to Reject, where you work with someone else, but you normally work alone with trailers, right?
Yeah.
I'm interested too in knowing how do you communicate with the developers, because each one is a different world. For example, as you worked with Suda 51, it had to be really different from working, I don't know, with the Super Crush K.O developers or the Cultist developers, because for example, I don't know, Suda doesn't speak English.
Correct.
Oh,
Correct.
thanks God. Thanks God. I mean, imagine working, I don't know, with Hideki Kamiya or something like that doesn't speak anything else besides Japanese. Well, at least Suda speaks English. So, but the culture is really different, and I don't know if all of the trailers you've worked with are from USA, or some of them are from Europe or like that. So the culture is different. So how do you approach the talks with the developers?
Yeah, it's so different. I work with people all over the world. So yes, I've worked with Suda 51 in Japan, but I've also worked with people in France and in Italy and in Germany and in England. And I've also worked with people in Poland and in Russia. I've done several Russian games recently. So I work with people all over the globe. And there's a couple of there's many different differences between them all because a lot of times it comes down to personality. So, so some people are very shy or timid, some are very loud and boisterous. And so it really depends on their personality and what they want to bring to the trailer themselves. And it's luckily I love people, so I love working with all different kinds of people. Um, but the other key difference aside from personality is that sometimes these people have publishers. So sometimes I'm actually working with the publisher rather than the developer themselves. So there's this kind of difference between having a developer approach me directly and say, "Hey, I would love for you to work on my game," versus a publisher who says, "Hey, I've got this game that we want to get a trailer for by this date for this event. Can you jump on it?" And then I may or may not get to talk to the developer directly. So it's kind of a very fine line. Some of it feels very business like when I'm working with a publisher. It's a very, very professional, business oriented relationship where they tell me what they need and what they're looking for, and I give them that deliverable. And developers, we get a lot more emotional because they're so close to their project. With somebody like Suda51, I was working with his publisher, but as you said, he does not speak English. So I flew out to Japan to do a
Ah,
documentary.
he does
Of,
not. He does not speak English.
correct,
Ah,
correct.
I understand you wrongly. I thought he did speak English. Sorry, my bad.
No, no. Yeah, he does not speak English. So when I flew out to Japan to do this documentary about launching the silver case from Japanese to the first time ever in English in America, so finally people in America could play this game. I there were so many cultural barriers. I would interview him and ask him a question, and then I had a girl who was on the publisher side who would interpret that question and ask it to a guy who was the head, I think, of the company, because there's sort of like a hierarchy of professionalism. So I can't directly ask him a question in a professional setting. I can talk to him on a show floor, but I can't ask him a question in an interview. So I have to ask a girl. The girl has to ask this guy, and then the guy asks him, and then he tells the girl and the guy, and then the girl tells me what his answer is. It was kind of a nightmare. It was so hard to do, but he is an incredible, incredible human being. And afterwards, he did come up to me on the show floor, and he doesn't speak a lot of English, but he said, thank you, and it was nice to work with you. And he's a very, very kind, wonderful guy. So I was very fortunate to work with him. But that kind of experience, those do exist, these little outliers of weird interactions versus just literally talking on Discord or on Skype or through email to a developer directly.
Yeah, it had to be really difficult. I thought that he spoke English, so it would have been a bit easier. But because, for example, you mentioned Swery before, I think Swery does speak English.
Yes. Yeah, we interviewed Swery as well for that same documentary, and he spoke beautiful English. He actually talked to me on the show floor, and he was no problem. I didn't even have to have the head of a company, stand there and tell him what I was saying, which was a big plus. So he was super charismatic and understood English very, very well, and was able to keep up with me and joke with me, which is definitely a big deal. Like that's pretty advanced. So yes, Swery was a different experience in the same time zone. I mean, that was the same week that I did the two interviews.
That's yeah. It's really difficult when you have a language barrier. I think that here in Europe and stuff, we all, well, not all of us, but there are a lot of people, especially developers, because as it's a really technological job, you have to use English for searching information, for searching on forums. You need it. I mean, I'm an engineer myself, so I need English for everything almost. But yeah, in Japan, I have a friend who is a translator there in Japan, and he told to me that they don't really speak English. Almost anyone there.
Yeah, yeah, but it's so funny because in America, so most people only speak English. So in
It's the
Japan,
same
no one
way.
It's weird because in Japan no one speaks English, but everyone speaks way more English than Americans speak Japanese. Like we don't speak anything. We do not speak anything other than English. Like even when we know a language, we do not know. It's very very rare that somebody actually knows. I can't believe how all of the different developers I talk to all know English, some form of English, even if it's not a lot. Their not a lot is like, oh my God, we can communicate. It's wonderful. So I'm constantly impressed and wish my country could could learn another language and at least have us speak something else.
Well, you can always learn Spanish. I mean, it's easy. No, it's not
Very
easy. It's
true.
not easy.
Not quite the same kind of Spanish that you speak, but yes.
Well, you
Absolutely.
can. Well, you probably can. You probably know some Spanish words, but they are from Latin. They are from Latin America. They are
Yeah.
they are kind of different, but at the end we all can understand each other. It's like, for example, when you talk with a British English, with a British people, or with an Australian guy, they are all English. I mean, I'm talking English, but it's not the same English as you're talking. I have a lot of Spanish accent, so what can I say? Uh,
It's great. It sounds very European, very suave.
I love that. I love that expression. Very suave. It's one thing that you say, that you English people say a lot. Because suave here means soft. I mean, it's not exactly the same. We have that
Oh,
word. Yeah, we have that word. Suave. As we say, suave. It's something that is soft. It's something that is like how do you say? It would be the weirdest comparison in the world, but it's like when you touch a frog, that kind of sensation that is so without any kind of anything. It's like that your hand slips through.
oh
I,
wow. Oh wow. That is very different.
so yeah, here we say suave, like a baby's like a baby's ass, because they are
Yeah.
really.
No, I definitely do not mean that. I mean cool and
Yeah,
sexy and
I know,
hip.
I know.
Like,
It's really different.
oh my gosh.
It's really
Well,
different. It's really different. Well, I want to finish this interview with some thoughts from your part. I mean, I want to ask you about how do you feel being a trailer maker, and also I want to ask you, what do you recommend people to start making a career as a trailer making? It's something that not a lot of people think, because it's more like editing video. Some of us might even think that the marketing team does it internally, that they, or even the studio does it. But I mean, there are people who actually, like you, who actually work making those trailers, that are experts in making those trailers and trying to communicate with the public. I've made a trailer for myself. I made a trailer, not for me. I mean, it was for a video game that we made, and it was.
yeah.
Yeah, I made a video game in my degree. It was completely lame. I mean, if I ever saw it to everyone, it's horrible. Okay, but we had a lot of fun. So I want to ask you that. What is your thing? What are your thoughts about your career, about trailer making, and what will you advise to someone who wants to start a career with that, in that?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I love it. I like I said, I got here by accident, and this is such a fun job for me because I get to live so many different lives and make so many different kinds of trailers. I get to make the horror and the action and the emotional, like and the flirty, like best friends forever or best friend forever. Like I get to do the dating game sim. I get to do rogue legacy, like all of these are so different and I get bored easily. So it's such a perfect fit for me to be able to just transplant myself into a new world every month. Um, as far as getting into it, I honestly the best thing you can do is just make fake trailers. So take a game that you're really passionate about. So I know a lot of people who started off with something like Halo or Star Fox 64 or whatever it is that they were passionate about. And try to make a trailer about it. Try to find the best parts and use cheesy music that you don't have permission to use, and cut together a 60-second or a 2-minute trailer. And that is how you can get started. Just make fake trailers, because that is the perfect exercise to get where you need to go. No one is stopping you. There are no barriers between you and getting yourself moving, especially in this day and age. You can record video game content very easily. YouTubers and Twitch streamers do it all the time. Or you can download people's gameplays from YouTube and steal their content. And then you can take that and start to put it to a track. You can put it to anything you want. You could use Queen or David Bowie or whatever music you think is interesting, and try to cut something interesting. Because you're going to suck. You're going to be awful for like a while. And that's okay. You need to start by being terrible, because that's how you learn to get better. And then just start to build yourself a portfolio. A lot of people I know who do this professionally, the team that I worked with on Crucible, a lot of them started by just making fan trailers.
You made the Crucible's trailer?
Yeah, so I worked with Crucible they put out 30 trailers
Yeah.
on day one.
Yeah.
So there was a big good one that a guy I know named Sam, he did, and he did an amazing job on. And then there were like all the different modes, so each character had a trailer and each gameplay had a trailer. And so I did a bunch of the character trailers and the gameplay modes, and I helped on a few other things. This is a couple years ago now, so it's hard to remember, but that was, yeah, it was a big deal. It was a very big deal. But yes, you are right. There are many people who have trailers made in-house. So, for example, Bungie, a lot of their stuff is made in-house. A lot of these AAA studios make their stuff in-house. But then there's everybody else, and there's lots and lots and lots of work out there. And I'm really fortunate to work with and be very good friends with many other trailer editors. There's not that many of us who are indie, doing it on our own, video game trailer editors. So there's a very small group of us, and we're always looking for new wonderful people to come and join our ranks. So the best thing you can do is just start, just try, just see what you can do. Learn Premiere. That's very helpful. Learn an editing software. Again, very easy to do. There's like 1,000 free tutorials on YouTube. So just dive in, download a free trial. There's nothing stopping you.
Now you've made me want to try, but
just do it. It's so much fun. I have ones that I want to do. I'm gonna record old Nintendo games and see if I can make some fun, like upgraded trailers for them, just for the fun of it, because it is so much fun to do, and that's what it should be. It should be something you enjoy doing.
When you make it, I want to watch it. I'm really curious. I didn't know that you worked on Criswell. I mean, they are in the Spanish, but they are from Latin America, so they speak Spanish too.
Oh, really? Yeah. Crucible. That was the big Amazon game that started Amazon Game Studio. And are we talking about the same Crucible game? I wonder.
Crucible. My God, I completely misunderstood you. Completely. Sorry. I mean, my bad. You're saying Crucible, and I'm saying Crucible. That it's another completely different game.
Oh, are they? Okay, yeah. So the one I'm talking about is for Amazon Game Studios. It was the first game that they launched, and it was kind of an epic failure. But
yes,
the trailers were very good. So.
And she can say it because she made it. But yeah. I know the game. I played it. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't anything new. It was interesting at first, but as we have so many games that are the same, that it didn't stand out.
Unfortunately, there was a lot of internal things that happened. It was a different game initially, and then they very quickly changed it near the end. So that's why I think that was one of many, many problems that they faced with that game. But again, the trailers were absolutely incredible. So please, even if you hate the game, check out the trailers because they look so good.
Yes, I will post the trailer from Crush K.O, that the one that you have on your portfolio, because it actually was really good. I will put it on the description box. Well, Vanessa, thank you very much for being here with me today. It was a really fun, and I think it was a really I'm thinking about educative, but I don't want to say educative. I want to say another. I don't know. It was a really educative way that you. when I get stuck, it's like, well, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot listening to you, and I hope the people who watch this video, or the people who read the article that will maybe come from this video, will learn and will also be interested in making trailers, because here in Spain we have a lot of people who love to edit. We have a lot of people who make amazing things for other people just for fun, just for example, for some YouTube, for other content creators. So knowing that you can try to make a living, you can try to make a career from making video game trailers professionally, it's something that most of the people don't know, and here you are to demonstrate that it is possible. Maybe not here in Spain, but you can, as it's a very, I don't know how to put it. I mean, you don't have to be there to make a trailer.
Yeah, you don't. You can be anywhere in the world. You can be anywhere in the world. And if you love it and you're passionate about it and you have patience, that's the key. You have to be a patient person. Then, yeah, patience is the key to any editing. Then you can absolutely do it. So, like I said, I actually have almost no clients from Seattle, which is where I'm based. So all of mine are everywhere else, and anyone can do it. So, don't be afraid. Dive right in.
Well, I'm gonna switch to Spanish right now to make to say goodbye, okay, to end the video. So, bueno, muchas gracias a todos los que habéis llegado hasta aquí. Muchísimas gracias, espero que os haya gustado el vídeo. La verdad es que ha sido un vídeo bastante que ha pasado muchas cosas, ha dicho muchísimas cosas muy interesantes sobre qué es hacer un tráiler, cómo se hace un tráiler, cómo lo hace ella. Tenéis el portfolio entero de Vanessa en la caja de la descripción. Y nada, espero que os haya gustado. Si queréis colaborar, si queréis apoyar al canal para que pueda seguir haciendo este tipo de contenidos, que no vais a encontrar realmente en ningún otro sitio, y eso os lo garantizo. Tengo Patreon, podéis apoyar ahí por solo 3 euritos. Si a final de año llegamos a 50 euros al mes, seguiré haciendo esto, ya lo dije en su momento. Y de hecho ya tengo preparadas las siguientes, no están grabadas, pero ya tengo a los siguientes invitados en inglés hasta final de año, así que está preparado hasta ahí, después de ahí lo que lleguemos. También podéis darle un like y suscribiros. Y ahora sí, Vanessa, thank you so much for being here. I mean, I'm gonna repeat myself, but thank you so much. Try saying adiós. Try saying adiós to
Adiós.
Hasta la próxima. Adiós.